Good morning, my lovelies. Well, good morning for me, because this right now it's 8:30 in the morning. But whenever you're watching, good day. Welcome back to my channel. Today I am sewing my little one mini backpack. I'm going to be using for the first time ever the mini Phoebe from Sincerely Jen. You know, I have found a new obsession with Sincerely Jen pattern. It started with the way she names her pattern because I'm a huge Friends fan, as you can see, and she named her. The patterns are inspired by Friends characters and scenes, and it's awesome because I everything that all the names she has there mean something to me. So I know for somebody who doesn't watch Friends, I probably sound like a crazy woman right now, but it's so cool. So this one, it's called Phoebe. It's a mini backpack, so I figured it's a good starting point for my little ones that are not so little, honestly, and very demanding. They've made me a list of all the things they want done with the new Backstitch Prints Animal Crossing inspired vinyl, because they are playing Animal Crossings every single day. So what am I supposed to do? I was already late in my kids' opinion because I dared to sew the Diddlebug Mini for me first. How could I? So I promised him today when he comes back from school, he'll have his little backpack. It's not like he needs it tomorrow, but what do I know? So expect to see more videos with this fabric, with this vinyl featured on my channel, because I have a list like this long of things that they want me to make them with this vinyl. So without further ado, let's get started. I browsed through the pattern and it does seem pretty straightforward and pretty easy. I will be cutting some corners, so to speak, when it comes to the back strap and the handle. I'm using pre-made webbing because, hey, why not? I'm also, I don't have the matching webbing, like the Animal Crossing webbing that comes with, that will probably be in the pre-order, I'm not sure yet. But I will purchase it, so I'm probably going to end up changing the yellow straps for the webbing when I get it. But for now, I'm just sticking to regular solid color webbing for the straps and the handle. I don't plan on making modifications except for two things, and I'll tell you why. The pattern has the straps and the handle 3/4 of an inch wide, which means it needs hardware that is 3/4 of an inch. And I have 1 inch hardware most of the time, and including today. So I just modified the strap, meaning I'm just adding 1 inch webbing and 1 inch hardware, so not a big modification. And I'm thinking I'm gonna skip the back pocket because I don't think he needs it, but we'll see as I go. So not really modifications to the pattern, just not doing one part. But the back pocket looks like it's done just like I did the mini backpack the other day. So if you want to do it, the designer does include videos with her patterns, so be sure to check those out. As always, I do want to mention that this is not meant to replace any designer's video. These are not tutorials. These are, again, sew with me videos. Like, you sit there and you watch me make a fool of myself while I'm trying to sew new bags sight unseen. But hey, it's fun, right? We get to hang together. You hear about the Florida weather. You hear about my crazy kiddos. So I think it's cute. So I'm going to start by sewing the accent to the pocket. This is the zipper for the pocket. My kiddo chose this zipper tape. Everything is like chosen by him. He's very picky with his details, let me tell you. So he chose this honeycomb pull from Wizardry, and of course zippers from Wizardry, because he really doesn't have any other choices. And I'm going to start by sewing the zipper right sides together to the main. Again, this is the new custom vinyl that's offered at Backstitch Prints. As always, links to everything that I use will be in the description of the video, so be sure to check out the Backstitch group, because a flash pre-order for these vinyls will be happening this Friday, the 8th, so you don't want to miss that one. Oh, okay, I was like, what did I do? Right sides together. I'm going to add the lining as well. And the designer does mention in the pattern that she changes the seam allowance throughout, so I know this one is done with a 1/2 inch. So make sure that you read the pattern as you sew. And I will try to follow my own advice, but we'll see how that goes. For the lining, I'm using waterproof canvas that I got on Amazon. One, because I like how it sews, I like how resistant it is, and two, because I don't have to interface it. So I do acknowledge the fact that this backpack is full of vinyl, and thick vinyl at that, as well as Decovil. The vinyl is interfaced with Decovil Light. So it can get bulky on your domestic machine. You should first of all, get a leather needle for your domestic machine. If you're adding all the layers that I am doing right now, like thick layers, waterproof canvas is thicker than cotton woven. So one way to reduce bulk would be to, instead of using waterproof canvas for the lining, to use cotton woven interface with FSF 101 or any woven interfaces that you like. That will definitely reduce the bulk. Another way to reduce it would be to do maybe the front pocket in cotton woven and the main part of the backpack in vinyl. This way you have best of both worlds. You know what your machine can handle or not. You know her better than anyone else. Alright, so this is how you do the front pocket zipper. So, and this will go like this on the backpack. So now I'm looking for my front pocket, which I'm assuming is this one, based on the shape, which is not something you should be doing. You should have marked stuff on the back. So let's find the center top and mark it down. This is such a stunning vinyl. It's such a gorgeous color, and crispiness, thickness is woven backed, so it's so thick that honestly it's gonna save you money in the long run on interfacing. So I found the center of my zipper, and I'm going to, I just want to make sure that they go this way. I've never done this pattern before, so I am reading as I go, obviously. Okay. So yeah, this is going to be attached to this. So to the front pocket, you'll be attaching the zipper right sides together at the curved side. This is what I was checking. And then we're going to pin in place. Are you guys excited for the pre-order on Friday? I can't wait. There will be charms for this print. I don't have them, but I did show them to my kids, and they want so many of them. It's going to be the Bell, he said it's called. I have no clue what this game is like, so it's what I've seen him and his friends playing. So I think it's called bell bag or a bell sack or something like that. Bell bag. He said it's kind of like a wallet. When you get your bells, which apparently is the currency in this game, you put them in a sack or a bag. So there will be a charm inspired by that. So I told him when we get the pre-order in, because I will order him the charm, because that's what moms do, apparently. I will give him the charm so he can add it to this, like dangling on the front of the bag. He was very excited. That I could do that? Yes, baby, I could do that. Alright, so let's stitch this down. And I believe this will be 1/4 of an inch seam allowance because there's a zipper tape. So yes, this is a 1/4 of an inch seam allowance. Go slow, especially where you go and change heights. Like here, it's a lot bulkier than it is here. So when your foot will come down, go very slow. And right now on this part, no, I don't like how it veered. Easy fix. Actually, look at this, how it veered the zipper. I don't like that. I try my best to keep a constant seam allowance, so if it gets like way out of hand like it did now, I prefer to restitch it. And I start a little higher up, this way I can backstitch, and then continue, and it's an easy fix. See here, it's a lot bulkier, so when it got over that hump, you need to go slow. Make sure the raw edges stay aligned because it will want to move. So now it will curve a little bit, which will make the pocket lay nicely in the front. Everything is done with a reason. Okay, so here I did the same thing where I did that, where I had that bump. So now you want to attach the lining the same way we did right now, but only, look at me all organized. Come on, you see my pretty pile in a bag? Come on, you don't get to see that very often. You need to give me a pat on my back because usually it's all like scattered here. So now I'm just sandwiching the lining, and I'm going to go ahead and sew over the I'll try at least to sew over the previous stitching line. And I'm not going to sew on the bottom, just around the curved, not the flat area. Not the straight area, not flat. This way I can turn it through there. Might be easier if you keep your zipper open for this. Yeah, it's definitely easier if you open your zipper up. So while I'm pinning this, I do want to thank you all from the bottom of my heart for the amazing response I've had to the unboxing of the new backstitch vinyls. One, I want to thank you because that's supporting my channel. And two, I want to thank you because that's supporting Amber and backstitch prints, and I know firsthand how much she has worked and to make sure that she will give all of us a great quality product. All the expenses she's occurred for the past year with all the tester and whatnot. So I do want to thank you all for having such an amazing response to the unboxing video on the vinyl. Alright, so I'm gonna stitch this down with a 1/4 of an inch seam allowance. And then flip and top stitch. Oops, the zipper pull here a little bit away. If you're doing this on a domestic machine, you might want to consider using a zipper foot. This walking foot is wide enough that I don't need a zipper foot. I wanted to buy one, and then I realized I'll probably be lazy and not change it anyway, so why spend the money? Just to say I have it. I have so many things in my sewing room that I bought just to have them in case I need them and never use them. So 2021 is the year where I will make no unnecessary expenses. That is my goal. Okay, so I'm turning it right side out. Look how beautiful this vinyl turns. It is thick, yet pliable, because it has a minor elasticity to it. So it makes turning a breeze, and it stays nice and crisp and no wrinkles. Look how gorgeous. So I'm gonna go ahead and top stitch. So when you look at the pocket on the bottom, you'll see, because of the curve, that these points actually meet right here. So, oops, I caught my zipper here. Yep, I caught a little bit of the zipper. No problem. Easy fix. There was a little bit of a bump there. Okay, so now everything looks good. Let me top stitch with 1/8 of an inch away from the edge, seam allowance. So now in the seam allowance, I have 2 layers of this thick vinyl and 2 layers of the waterproof canvas. So if you feel that your machine doesn't want to cooperate easily with all this thickness on your domestic machine, you might want to consider skipping top stitching. It does look a lot better if you can get it to top stitch. And of course, I'm using the gorgeous rainbow sewing string from Wizardry Stitchery, because it definitely is appreciated with this print. Alright, so this is your pocket. Next step is that we will be adding the lining on the pocket. So this will be the front, and it needs a lining on the back. So I have my lining piece. I'm going to find the top center. And we're going to be adding this and the bottom, the right sides together with the inside. So basically the waterproof canvases needs to be right sides together. Well, in my case, waterproof canvases. In your case, whatever lining you've decided to use. So let me go ahead and find the center here as well. And we're going to stitch all around. So, like so. Alright. And then this will be stitched to this zipper part, the zipper tape. So the center will match the center here. And again, it might be easier to stitch this with the zipper open. We'll see. And again, I have wrong side of the zipper tape to the right side of the pocket lining. And I'm going to stitch all around. And I have interfaced this with Decovil Light, and I don't remember why, but must be something in the pattern, or maybe I just imagined it. Oh, I know why. I know why. Because there is no back of the front. The front is made of this part and the top, which we'll add in the next step. So both needed Decovil Light, that's why. It's rare for me to see Decovil Light on lining, on waterproof canvas. That's why I was wondering, what did I do there? Alright, so this is how it looks like pinned. So I'm going to stitch all around. Maybe. It's easier on the back, because it does tend to curve. So I'm trying to see if I can use that curve to my advantage. We'll see. Go slow when you have that bump, like I have right now. There is a thing that they sell for cases like this. I think it's called a zipper jig or a jeans jig or something like that. It's used for when you sew jeans. See? My foot was a little loose. I was like, what is this? My screw got a little loose. So it's used when you hem jeans and you have to go over seam allowances, and it goes like this. Look it up if you want to use it. It would work well for situations like this. I think it's called jeans something, zig, jig. I obviously don't have it. Yeah, it's definitely easier to sew with the pocket right sides down, because the curve is like this, so it helps when you stitch this down. Beautiful. See, it's pretty easy, the pattern so far. Like, no crazy instructions. A good beginner backpack. So this is the front, and now you have a front pocket created. So now we're going to add the top part, which is this curved piece, and it's going to be added like this. So you want to find, we still have the center here, but I will check it again. The center of the zipper. Okay, so now you want to find the center of the bottom curve on your piece. You can also use your pattern pieces to mark this. So you want to stitch this right sides together, and keep in mind, right now you'll be sewing a convex curve into a concave curve. So there will be some wiggling, but it's worth it because the end result will be very nice. I just want to check, because I feel like this ends where that little bump is. So this is 1/4 of an inch seam allowance. Top end of the front. Yep, so I was right. So it ends right here. See? Like right here. This is where this starts. So I can start pinning that in place. And then ease my curve. And this is done with 1/4 of an inch seam allowance. And again, it's pretty tough because I have vinyl interfaced with Decovilight, and then I have waterproof canvas interfaced with Decovilight. So use a lot of pins. The more pins, and by pins I mean clips, right? You know that, right? No pins with vinyl. The more you use, the less pressure will be on each piece of the fabric, so it won't like snap off the pin. This is one of those scenarios where more is better. And you might want to consider, sometimes it helps to stitch, let's just say the beginning here, a few stitches, instead of pinning it. Just stitch the 1/4 of an inch at the beginning, then stitch the center, and then pin and stitch all around again. Because sometimes the stitch holds better than a pin that can be, or a clip that can like fly off. Or again, some people use staples, not a fan. Well, now that I've stitched that, it's easier to do this. Perfect. Now it fits perfectly. So I'm gonna go ahead and stitch all around. So this is what it looks like. Stitch at the top. This vinyl sews like a dream. I love it. And I love that I'm not afraid that once I turn the bags, it's gonna be creased. When Amber sent me the rolls, she sent them in a box, folded, which scared me at first sight because I thought they would be like creased. No, as soon as I took them out, they were perfect, like new. Didn't have to steam them or anything like that. Alrighty. So now we're gonna go ahead and top stitch this all around with the seam allowance towards the top panel. Keep in mind again, you have a lot of layers here, so either go very slow, or if you think there's no way your machine will handle this, just omit the top stitching. Not perfect, but good enough. I know, as much as my kid is picky with the details on the backpack, I know he's not gonna start checking my seams and all that stuff. Okay, so now you have your front, the front of your backpack ready. See how easy that was? Let's set that aside for now. Next step, we'll create the gusset. So for the gusset, you will notice that you have two pieces. One is wider than the other. So the bottom one that goes like this on the backpack is the wider one, where the top one is the thinner one, because that one will also have the zipper along one side. So we'll add that right now. So take your longer zipper, which is the 20-inch one. Yes, 20-inch. He chose these gigantor rainbow pulls, so I put a double zipper. And you're going to take your gusset, the narrower one, not the wider one, the narrower one, and right sides together, sew the zipper on along one side. Be cautious of any directional was the word I was looking for. Directional prints. This coordinate is tossed, so it doesn't really matter. And I'm sewing this with, oops, what did I do with my zipper? Did I cut it shorter than I had to? Let's add the lining right now. Same as usual, we're going to sandwich the right sides together, the lining to the main with the zipper in between, and stitch. And we're going to stitch this on top of the first seam allowance. And you'll stitch from one end to the other. Let's top stitch now. 1/8 of an inch away from the edge. And remember, you don't have zipper ends, which means, you know what I always say, don't snag your zipper right now when you move it away for top stitching, because it will fly off. Good thing, at least when I cut my zipper shorter, it's only by less than 1/2 inch, which makes it okay to put it in the seam allowance, because yeah. Did I mention I'm not a professional bag maker? Here's the proof. Okay, so this is done. We're gonna go ahead and add the handle right now. This is how it looks like on the back. I felt like you were a little too bright. Okay. So we will add the handle. For the handle, take the piece that is 20 something inches long. So there's one, and then there's two different ones for the straps. Find the center and mark it, and then mark 3 inches on each side and draw a line, and then another 1/2 inch on each side and draw another line. This will help us to add the D-ring, the first set of D-rings. So right now you want to find the center of this, just as an extra checking measurement. Just to hold it in place. Cut. You want to go back. So 3, 2, 1. So now you want to place the edges aligned with the sides and pin in place. Don't stitch yet. So aligned with the sides. This handle is longer because you needed to have this little extra bump here. So right now you're going to be stitching just one vertical line on the first line towards the center. So the one that's 3 inches from the center. You're gonna go ahead and stitch one line there. If you've used the straps that you made yourself, of course, those steps are included in the tutorial. I'm sure they're included in the video tutorial link in the pattern as well. So follow those. I'm just using pre-made webbing for this. So now repeat the same thing on the other side. Where you marked your 3 inch line, keep this bump towards the center. And stitch just a vertical line. And that's it. You're not stitching all around just yet because we still need to add our sliders in. But we wanted to make sure that we create that bump, that handle bump. If you like, you can also rivet it, but if you add a rivet, add it towards the inside. And keep in mind that if your child or whoever will be the receiver of this backpack tends to actually carry lots of stuff and heavy stuff in it, and you put a rivet, it might snag. So it's up to you. You know how the backpack will be used. Alright, so now what you should have after this step will be 2 loose straps and the handle. So we're gonna go ahead now and get 2 D-rings out of the 4 and slide them in. And they will stop at this spot right here. Okay, push them towards the handle. And then now it's when you're gonna come and stitch this part. And you're going to stitch on one edge, down that line you made, and then on the other side. I might need to do it in 3 steps because that ½ inch might be too close for me to go pivot. So I'll do the ½ inch first. And then I'll do the 2 straight lines, because I'm not sure if I have space enough to go and do like a one shot kind of a deal. This one I won't definitely change because it's part of the back construction, but the shoulder straps are added with swivel clasps, swivel clips, so I could change those when I get my Animal Crossing webbing in, when the pre-order comes in. So now we can go ahead and stitch on the 2 sides on both parts. Oh, this is a crooked line. I think because it hit the seam allowance. I might redo it. Because this is not pretty. See how it went here? It just hit the seam allowance. So I'm gonna go ahead and stitch again this part and this part, and then on this side, and this side, and then come back and finish the gusset with you. Alright, I fixed the straight line stitching. Now it's a lot straighter. So this is how it looks like. You have your handle here and your 2 rings that are not moving from this location. This is where we'll hang the straps later on. So we're now creating the whole gusset. We're adding the top and the bottom together simply by stitching right sides together on each short end to create the loop with a ½ inch seam allowance. And this will also create the zipper ends. So now the zipper poles are safely in there. And of course you'll sandwich the lining. You'll sandwich the zipper and the top gusset in between the lining and the main, right sides together like so. Repeat on the other side. There I need to make sure I catch my zipper, since I've made that mistake with my zipper tape. Bring in the lining, the right sides together. Check. Top stitch your seam allowance. You might consider trimming it down a little bit to reduce the bulk. So now you have your big loop, your big gusset loop. Like so. So I'm gonna go ahead and top stitch the seam allowance towards the back. The back, well, I mean towards the part without the zipper. I believe there is a slip pocket from what I remember from when I cut the pieces, because I cut the pattern pieces a few days ago. I think there is a slip pocket on the inside, and there's also a welt pocket on the back, but I'm not adding that one. My kid doesn't need an extra pocket for a couple of things he'll carry in this. And the next up I need to sew a switch case. My oldest didn't want a backpack, he wanted a switch case with this vinyl, so I need to see what pattern I'm gonna use to improvise a switch case. Can you say spoiled? Okie dokie artichoke. So this is how your gusset will look like right now. Top of the backpack. So now we're going to start adding the front, the back, and the lining to it. And the straps will be created last. I'm actually going to need to create the connector for the bottom as well, since I'm skipping the zipper pocket in the bottom. I might skip the, is there one in the lining too? I have a feeling there's two zipper pockets. One in the lining and one, yeah, there's two. I'm not doing either one of them. They're going to be created exactly like all the other pockets I've done in the lining with the zipper. So you can always refer to that. But like I said before, the pattern does include video tutorials at the bottom. There's links exclusively for the pattern purchaser, so you can definitely click those. I'm sure the designer goes through that. I'm not going to be doing either one of those. I'll do them slip pockets or no pockets on the inside. Makes the stitching faster. Okay, so let's do that then. I could use these pieces since I've already cut them. The slip pocket piece are like two almost squares, I think. And to create them, you simply sew around with, I like to do them with 1/4 of an inch seam allowance. and leave an opening for you to turn. I mean, how many things does an 8.5-year-old have to put in a mini backpack? I don't think he needs all these pockets. So I'm skipping 2 zipper pockets, but they are included in the pattern. So one on the back and one on the inside in the lining. I'm just hoping the lining one is not used to turn the backpack. Since I'm skipping it, I'll have to check. So I'm turning it right side out to create my slip pocket. And I get a poking tool. Waterproof canvas is definitely harder to turn than regular woven. Alright, so I'm stitching this closed, and this will be the top of the pocket. Okay, so take one of the lining pieces, whichever you want to use for the pocket. There's a smaller one and a bigger one, so I don't know which one's which. Main, front. Okay, so this is the back and this is the front. The front has a pocket, so let's put it on the back, the slip pocket. I still have my center lines from when I drew the pattern pieces on the waterproof canvas, so I'm gonna use those. Okay, I didn't poke this out. Alright, whatever. I'm just gonna center it here. Eyeball it. Oops. There is no pretty corner. I don't care. He's lucky he's getting a backpack, and he's lucky he's getting an extra pocket inside. Okay, so let's set those aside and create the strap connector. Next up, we're going to create the connectors for the back of the panel. the back of the backpack, this is where you'll be hanging your straps from. So the pattern calls for a 1.5 inch width. I cut 2 because mine is 1 inch. Remember, I didn't have hardware for 3/4 of an inch, so I adjusted it to accommodate the 1 inch hardware. So mine is 2 inches, not 1.5 by the length. So I'm adding my wonder tape on each side and folding towards the center, and then press. So now you want to add your D-ring, and you want to fold this again towards the center. This will enclose all the raw edges of the connector, because the connector will not be placed in the seam allowance. So like, you're going to be folding towards the inside. Just make sure your D-ring is placed in already. Okay, and I'm going to stitch all around. To add it to the backpack, you can rivet it in place, or you can stitch it in place. Not the most prettiest stitch I've ever done, but whatever. So this is how it will look like, and this is the back. So now this will be placed on the panel. Let's do the other one as well, and then we'll stitch them on the back panel. Same thing, I'm pushing it towards the center, matching the raw edges. Okay, and then slide your D-ring, and then bring the edges like so. And stitch in place as best as you can, given the fact that there is a metal piece here, so you want to avoid hitting that. One day I want to try one of those straps that are like in the connector, that's in the panel, not on the outside. I saw it on a couple of bags, and I really want to try that. Okay, so what you can do now, first of all, you want to take your back panel and you want to mark your placement. As you can see on the pattern piece, you have a placement guide where your back connectors will go. I marked that already on my panel, so you can use a little bit of double-sided tape to hold it in place while you rivet it or while you stitch it. This is water soluble, the tape, so if I need to clean off any excess, I just dab it with a little bit of water and it goes away. Okay, so I'll place it right here. Same thing on the other side. So I put like an X there and I come and place it right here. So now you can stitch it in place, you can rivet it in place, whatever you're comfortable with. I'm gonna stitch it in place with like an X. I mean, it's a pretty small, like it's a mini backpack. I'm hoping he's not gonna carry rocks in it, so I need additional strength on this, but who knows. Kids have surprised me many times. So the slip pocket is done, these are done. I think after this step we can start putting things together. Beautiful. Now that we have all portions sewn together, like front, back, sides, and so on, we need to start putting it together. Now, I did mention that I don't want to add any of the zipper pockets, but I realized reading through the pattern that the zipper pockets are needed to turn the bag if you don't want to do binding. So I have compromised. I think we'll see by the end of the video what ends up happening. So I decided to add the zipper pocket to the front one, to the front pocket, front panel of the lining after all. So I did add that one. Easy, just like we did before in all the other videos. So far I'm still trying to skip the back one. But if I do that one, I need to add binding. So I don't know yet. I'll see how easy I turn this one. And if this one is super hard to turn, then I'll do binding for the back. that option is included in the pattern as well. So the pattern does give you the option to birth the bag through the back zipper pocket, the one that I didn't add, or to do binding. So for now, for the front part, I'm going to add the gusset first, and then the lining. I do believe it's the gusset first, right? Yes. So the gusset is first. Let's see. Lucky duck, he might actually get all his pockets. So this is how it will look like. You want the zipper to the front. Open the zipper up. And let's match the center of the zipper, which I hope I have marked before, but it looks like I may not have. So mark the center of your zipper, the zipper tape that doesn't have anything attached to it. Let's see by the end of this video if I'm holding strong with not attaching any, not doing the back pocket. We'll see. Alright, so right sides together, the zipper tape with the top center of this panel. Did I not mark this center either? What have I been doing? Okay, so this goes here. I'm gonna pin this all around and sew with 1/4 inch seam allowance. Keep in mind you're pinning a straight edge of the zipper to a curved edge of the backpack. So there will be some wiggling. If you find that you need to clip a few snips in the tape, you can do that too. Okay, and the bottom center, didn't I just mark it? Okay. Okay, to the bottom, which I already see the marking. And you're going to be stitching through all the layers here. So there's gonna be a few layers. Go slow and give your machine grace. Yep, this is thick. Keep your zipper pulls away. Is it lower on both sides? It is lower. Okay, good. I was afraid that all these seam allowances are one on top of the other, but they're not. This one, the gusset one, is lower than the front pocket one, so it's gonna be easier to stitch. Whew. Like, oh my god, I hope they don't match. But no, the pattern is drafted very well. See, this is what I was talking about. On this edge, you see those seam allowances? I was hoping there wouldn't be one on top of the other, but they're not. They're offset by a little bit, so it's not gonna be super, super thick. Okay, so you want to stitch all around. Okay, be mindful of your zipper pulls, because there's a lot of zipper pulls around these areas right now, and you really don't want to hit them with your needle. Go slow, make sure all the raw edges align and the layers are sewn together. Especially at the corners. For added strength, you might go one more time over the seam allowance and sew with like 1/8 of an inch. Oops, zipper pulls, zipper pulls. Check it, make sure that nothing has slipped, no puckers have been created. Looking good, looking good. Oh, here, I don't like this here. Oh, and it's because I didn't pull my zipper. It went off course a little bit. Much better. Let's see here where the other pulls are. Yep, same thing. I needed to move my zipper pull, and because I didn't, it made that little curve. But it's an easy fix. So the gusset with the front panel are attached. Now we're going to attach the lining as best as we can. And if I see it's too much, I'll just do a binding. Binding is easy. So now you want to bring all this. This is the front of the backpack with the big pocket on the front and the handle at the top. So you want to bring all of this in. Kind of like when we did the lolly, remember the lolly backpack? You want to bring all this in, and you want to place your lining on top. So now everything is in between the lining and the main, and you want to sew all around. So all around this, and then you'll be turning through this opening. Make sure that this zipper is open. So I'll try, we'll see. If with all the layers I'll be able to make it work. If not, we'll just do binding. I have some binding already cut from my tester that I did last night. So I have already binding strips done. I saw a little thing that I wasn't happy with, so before I attached the lining, I could still fix it. Okay, let's see how this goes. First, I'm gonna find the center, the top and the bottom. Oh, actually, I have them from when I drew the panel. I can see my lines. So I'll just put some snips. And I do believe this will be with a 1/2 inch seam allowance. Okay, so I'm finding the top and sandwiching it here. Then I'm gonna press everything down as best as I can get it, because I am working with vinyl. If you're doing this with quilting cotton, then these steps will be super easy. I just have a lot of bulk because I'm using vinyl. Okay, so I found the bottom center, and now I start pinning all around and create like a flat surface. Lots and lots of pins. This is open here. See? Oops, that one beat to the dust. The back part will be basically the whole backpack in this pocket, in this sandwich. So that may be a little harder. I think that's why the pattern designer offers you an option for binding, which I might take it, especially since I didn't put the back lining, the back zipper pocket. If you add it, you will just repeat the same steps you did right here. If you don't, you will add binding. Ooh, that's a lot of layers. 2 of vinyl and 2, 4, 6 of waterproof canvas. That's a lot of layers in this. But I insist on trying. Oh, and it's gonna be sewn with a 1/4 inch seam allowance because I have zipper tape here. It's not 1/2 inch. I don't have enough for 1/2 inch. Let's see how this will behave here. So, conclusion, if you're using quilting cotton, then highly encourage you to do this method. It's the neatest one and no binding of sorts. So add the back pocket too. If you're using vinyl, like I am, it might be easier to do binding. Than this. Okay, so I have this huge flat saucer right now. This is the front of the backpack. The gusset is smooshed inside. This is the lining front, which is a little smaller than the back. The back is the one with the slip pocket. And this is the pocket that is open, the bottom. And now I'm going to stitch around with a 1/4 inch seam allowance. Wish me luck. The use of many clips helps because it takes the pressure. And definitely the use of an industrial machine helps. I won't deny that. Going through all these layers. Okay, this is where the zipper is, and it really doesn't want to play nice. This is not the time to run out of bobbin thread. Not the time, machine. I need one of those stickers that Lauren from Mormino has with not today bobbin. I feel like this is not the right time. Like any time but this stitch to run out of thread. Come on. Go, 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 go. I think we did it, at least this part. Can we stop here? Can we stop here? All right, so now I need to somehow, some way, flip everything, and I did sew. Yeah, don't do this. Don't sew your pocket in the seam. Luckily, I have a big enough seam allowance in the pocket, so I can just trim it off. But yeah, don't sew your pocket in the seam, because then you won't be able to. Where did I go? Huh. You don't want to sew the pocket in the seam. Let's put it this way, so you can lift it up. Instead of seam ripping it, I'd rather just unstitch the pocket from the seam, because I didn't realize that I was sewing it in the seam. it too. Okay, let me unstick the pocket and then we'll turn the back together. I'm back. I fixed the pocket so they, like I can lift the pockets up. Keep that in mind. Don't stitch on the side seams through the pocket because it's going to be a hell to turn. You need to be able to move this. So you want to put your hand inside here and bring everything out through this pocket. Luckily I'm working with good quality vinyl, so I can do this fairly easy. It's not too difficult to push out, because first I push the lining and then I'm gonna flip this again. So, with a lot of muscle and patience, I did turn the bag. The corners are pretty stiff, so be cautious of that. The front of the bag is done. We need to close the pocket, the zipper pocket here. And if you feel brave enough, which I'm not with all the vinyl that I have, to do this again for the back side, go for it. I will do binding. Again, the option for binding is given in the pattern as well. So, because of all the vinyl, if you've used quilting cotton, these layers can be folded, smooshed together rather easily. But between the thick vinyl and the Decovil Light, it is pretty tedious to turn and smoosh together in that sandwich, like I call it. So I'm not gonna do that. I'm gonna bind it for the back. If you plan on doing a lolly from quilting with this vinyl, the new backstitch vinyl, I would encourage you to do the same thing, because that one is birthed the same way with this big sandwich. Especially if you've used waterproof canvas and Decovil Light and the thick vinyl, it's look how cute. Oh, and if you feel brave enough, you might want to top stitch around. Maybe I'll top stitch just as much as I'm comfortable, maybe a little bit at the top, but I can't go all the way in, that's for sure. But for now, I'll just close the back, the pocket here. And for the lining, the other part, I'll just stitch it and add binding and just stitch it in a circle. There you go, this is done. Push this back in. I'll try to top stitch now. See how much I can get it stitched. Here. I'm gonna open open the zipper up all the way and try to stop stitch as best as I can. It's not gonna be perfect, but it's better than nothing. Oops. And there's a clicking sound that I wasn't happy with. I am earning some mommy brownie points with this backpack. So I went as much as I could, as close as I could get it to the other zipper here. Not all the way down, but it's pretty cool. Like, look, I'll see if I can zoom in here. See, I went all the way with the top stitching so that they meet. It looks decent. And here, same thing on the other side. I started where the zippers meet, where the top stitchings meet. It looks pretty decent. And it's a big enough backpack. It's not super small. Okay, let me zip this up. So adorable. And now we want to add the back. So, for the back, you could do the same thing like I did before if you had your zipper pocket here. I don't have it, so for me it's out of the question. Sandwich it and flip it through that pocket, work those muscles. If not, what I'll do, I'll just stitch these two together to make like one layer. Just to keep them in place together. So they're wrong sides together right now. I'd rather take 2 extra seconds to stitch them in place than worry about them slipping and when I pin them to the backpack. Because this will be treated now, because I'm adding binding, as one piece. Alex? This is basically a basting stitch. Just wanted to make sure that they're all one piece. Okay. So now you're going to stitch this. Open the zipper. Remember to open the big zipper. So now the front is like so, and you're going to add the back in one single stitch. Okay, matching the centers at the top, at the bottom, and then all around. So now you're sewing through all the layers, and then we'll add the binding. And I show you how I add my binding. I've done my binding from quilter cotton. I cut it on a bias, so not cross grain, not along the grain, on the bias, so it has a little bit of stretch to go around the curves. I cut it at 2 1/4 inches wide. I don't know, strip after strip after strip. It's just a long strip. and then I sewed some together. I've sewn some together diagonally to create a long binding, and then simply pressed along the long side. I'll show it to you in a second. Pressed in half. So I'm going to use a different method to add the binding than I do with the store-bought one. This is the one that I've learned from Sarah from Sew Sweetness. That's how she adds binding to her projects. And I find it a little easier. If you feel like it would help you to snip the corners of the gusset a little bit, do so. Man, I went through so many clips today and ended up in the garbage. Because again, this is a straight edge, the gusset, and the backpack has a bottom that's curved. So to ease a straight edge into a curve, it helps to cut some snips like this. Snips that need to be smaller than the seam allowance, so they don't come out on the other side of the seam. Again, a case of more is more. More is better with the pins. Okay, looks cool. Plenty of pins. Let's just sew all around it. Do I sew like this or do I sew flat? Always the same question. Slow around the curve. Okay, so it's definitely easy this way. You know how I forget? I say so slow and I go fast. Perfect. It actually went really smoothly. It doesn't look like I'm missing any stitches or anything. There's no puckers anywhere. I like it. Okay, I'm gonna remove a little bit of this extra bulk in the seam here. Okay, that's where I'll be adding my binding seam, the side seam. There's a little bit of extra bulk. Okay. So now for the binding, this is the strip I was mentioning. So it's a 2 1/4 inch strip cut on the bias, so it stretches slightly, and folded and pressed like so. So I haven't measured it, so I'm gonna start from the back. And I'm going to add it like this. Now that the backpack is already stitched, it's pretty easy now to just match the raw edges of the binding piece to the raw edges of the backpack and stitch, making sure you curve it where it needs to be curved. And it should curve pretty easily since it's cut on a bias. I'm not even using pins for this because I've already sewn the backpack together, so it stays neatly in place. Give it a little tug around the curves, a little, ever so slightly stretch. So now I'm coming where I started and I'm sewing about 1 inch over and back stitch. Did I finish my bobbin? Okay, remove the excess. So what you want to do now, here I saw a corner that I wanted to trim the vinyl because it was too much. Okay, what you want to do right now is to fold one second. All right, last step, and then we're done with the backpack construction. What you want to do right now is take the folded edge and flip it up. If you feel like you need to trim the corners a little bit, the vinyl in the corner, you could. Okay, so take your fabric binding and push it up. It's gonna stay by itself because of the curve, because you pulled it taut at the edge, at the curve. It's gonna stay by itself. See, you just pull it up. That's all I'm doing this first step. So now, let me just fold this inside here. So now I'm putting it over and putting a clip. Putting it over the seam allowance and put a clip. As best as you can, but it will tend to stay because it's cut on the bias. If it wasn't cut on the bias, it wouldn't stay. So now I'm just putting clips all around. I could feel a little too much vinyl here, so I'm just gonna remove it. It's not gonna be perfect, but it's less muscle work than birthing it. So this is cut at 2¼ inch wide. If you feel more comfortable and you don't mind the look of a little extra binding, you could cut this at 2½ or 2 5/8. So you have a little extra width of the binding. It might feel more comfortable when you stitch it. So right now, without stressing, because it's not going to be perfect, so you're going to have to accept that. At least I know mine will not be, and I'm totally okay with it. You're going to stitch all around the binding and be done. Okay, let's start with the bottom here. And I do have a little bit of excess vinyl, which prevented my binding from turning nicely. So I'm just going to trim that off. This excess vinyl. There, so now it folds a little bit. As best as you can, don't stress. Or, of course, you can go ahead and hand stitch it if you're a hero. I'm not. You could also zigzag stitch this binding if you want, especially if you've used quilter cotton. You won't have all these layers. I love how this rainbow thread pops. last corner. Well, not perfect, but passable, and I'm sure the kiddo will love it. Because he won't care how it's done on the inside. Okay, so this is how it looks like with the binding. Not bad. So now you just have to turn it on the other side, which is much easier than birthing it. Open the zipper all the way. And just do a flipperoo. Next, you're going to want to create your straps. The pattern teaches you how to create straps from fabric or from vinyl. Mine are just webbing, because I've done enough work for this backpack. No, honestly, when the pre-order comes in, I'm pretty sure I'm gonna switch them out to the Animal Crossing webbing. If Amber does run one, I'm not sure yet. So if she doesn't, I'll stick with the yellow one. If she does, when the pre-order comes in, I'm just gonna switch them out, because the straps are basically standalone straps. They can be anything. It doesn't affect the construction of the bag because of all the D-rings. You can't tell me this vinyl isn't amazing. Look how much I'm putting it through. And 0 creases. You can see it. I'm not joking. There. Push out all the corners in the back. So on the inside, you could see binding on the bottom, see? And no binding at the front. But it would have been just as pretty if it matched with no binding or binding on both sides. Beauty of custom work, right? You do what works best for you, your machine, your fabric. Oh, ta-da! This is not so mini. This is pretty decent in size. Okay, let me create the straps so I can show you the finished bag. For the straps, I have the 2 sliders and the 4 rectangles. One side, simple, just slide the rectangle, and I'm going to fold 1/2 inch, and then, oh, there's a wrong side and a right side of this webbing. Okay, so let me seal in my ends first. I'm going to fold 1/2 inch, and I don't think there's a wrong and a right side. Now I'm confusing myself. Okay, so let's try this again. I'm gonna fold 1/2 inch and then fold 1 inch and stitch down. And I like to go a few times just for extra strength. One side. The other side, I'm going to take sealing my edges. Take a slider, push it up on the slider, down on the other side, so it's like this. Then I'll take a D-ring, not a D-ring, swivel, well, it has a D-ring on one end, and then this part here, I'm gonna run it through the slider again, the same side, left up, right down, and stitch in place. And that's it, one strap is done. Let's do the same thing for the other side. So again, sealing the edges of the webbing. One side, fold a half an inch and fold 1 more inch, and then stitch it down. And for the other strap, again, we take the slider, left, up, down, down on the right side, okay? Now, this end will go through the D-ring of the swivel clip, and then the end, again, goes left, up, down, right, and we're going to stitch these two in place. These two, the raw edge with this. And this is it. This is the last stitch. It wasn't difficult, right? It was pretty straight. I made it more difficult because I used a lot of vinyl and waterproof canvas, but it is not a difficult pattern to put together. Very straightforward. Okay, so what you want to do now is clip your swivel clasps here, and then at the top, where you had that ring at the top, and then the same thing for the other side. One here and one here at the bottom. And at the end of the day, if you ever want to use it like a crossbody, you can just use one of the straps or strap them together, because it has this hook right here. So this is the Pheobe backpack. In backstitch prints, vinyl and coordinate, also in vinyl, lined with waterproof canvas, zipper and zipper pulls from Wizardry Stitchery. This is how it looks like inside. It is hefty. I thought it would be smaller than this. And maybe outside pocket. Super cute. Do check out the links that I'm going to put in the description for backstitch prints, the backstitch Facebook group, and I'm going to also link Wizardry and the pattern there. So check them out, and I hope you guys get to sew one of these pretty Phoebe backpacks, even if it's just for the name. Look how cute. Thank you for sewing with me. Thank you for being awesome, for subscribing, and for turning on the notifications. Keep creating, and I will see you guys in the next one. Bye.